The DCEU, or DC Extended Universe, is now simply called DC Studios, and people are divided, to say the least, on the current changes happening behind the scenes. The most striking, and probably the most controversial decision made by Warner Bros. Executives is hiring James Gunn and Peter Safran both as co-chairmen and CEOs of DC Studios. Safran and Gunn were both hired to oversee DC Studios, with Safran taking charge of the business aspects while Gunn handling the creative division. Gunn has successfully led the Guardians of the Galaxy from being relatively unknown in the Marvel Cinematic Universe to being one of the most recognizable and anticipated superhero movies. And while his first try at the DCEU, The Suicide Squad, was not a booming box office success, it was partially because the movie was simultaneously released in theaters and streaming, and people were not as confident in going to movie theaters then as they are now. I personally enjoyed The Suicide Squad, especially because it gave birth to the spin-off series Peacemaker, which is one of my top comic book series of 2022. Meanwhile, Peter Safran has produced a number of DC movies and shows, including Aquaman, Shazam, The Suicide Squad, The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and Arrow. He was also responsible for building the Conjuring universe. Some DC fans, especially the Snyderverse fandom, are not particularly happy about Warner Bros.' decision in getting these two on board, especially with Gunn being the head of their beloved comic book franchise. Being a fan of Zack Snyder means wanting the first Justice League story and cast to continue. And while I understand their passion for the franchise and their frustration on how everything was handled behind the scenes, I will disagree with the narrative that James Gunn and Peter Safran will be the death of the DC franchise. Given their track record and Gunn's extensive knowledge of the source, I am keeping an open mind, and I'll wait and see what stories from the DC comics they would adapt and how they would do so. That being said, I am disappointed that Gunn has chosen to say goodbye to Henry Cavill's Superman to focus on a younger character and his time as a reporter in Metropolis. Cavill posted on Instagram that he will no longer don the cape, and while he wishes Gunn and Safran the best going forward, you can feel his disappointment in this decision. Although his frown was quickly turned upside down without the use of CGI when he announced that he will star and executive produce Warhammer 40,000 with Amazon Studios, and I definitely won't say no to more Henry Cavill on my screen. And how about you saying more to my videos on your screen by hitting the subscribe button and clicking that notification bell? Despite the loss of Henry Cavill in the DC franchise, I will still see what Gunn has planned, and I'm staying optimistic because I enjoy his work and I understand the previous cast and storylines are much more complicated to fix, and it comes with a lot of baggage, which is why they'd rather start fresh. Henry Cavill's exit in the DC franchise was not the only news from the studio that gathered noise on the internet. Rumors that Patty Jenkins walked out of Wonder Woman 3 because of rewrite requests were also reported, but she was quick to address the rumors, stating that she was open to considering anything asked of her for the project, and that there is nothing she could do to move anything forward, confirming that Gunn will do a complete reboot for the Justice League. She has also made it clear that she is actively working on Disney's Rogue Squadron, which was originally announced 2 years ago, and that she originally left production to focus on Wonder Woman 3, but was asked by Lucasfilms to return. Honestly, Disney's Star Wars projects have been a hit or miss for me, with Mandalorian and Andor being the hits and all the others leaving me feeling unsatisfied. I'm not super confident with Jenkins' work after Wonder Woman 2, which she took to a confusing direction. And I gotta say, the Star Wars fatigue has started to set in after Boba Fett, which had a tremendously pointless story. So I'm not sure if I will be watching Rogue Squadron in theaters. On the other hand, Matt Reeves' standalone Batman is launching full speed ahead as Gunn confirms it is completely untrue that he has plans to add the character to his planned DC Universe reboot. It looks like Robert Pattinson's Batman has solid support from Warner Bros. To continue as it remains untouched, with the sequel already confirmed and currently being written by Reeves. This is probably the only concrete good news to come out of the DC Universe. The first Batman movie was an absolute delight and probably one of the best comic book movies that came out this year, and I definitely want more from the Pattinson universe. Lastly, we gotta talk about Black Adam and The Rock. Look, I get that this was his passion project, that this movie spent several years in development hell, which is why he marketed the hell out of it when it was finally seeing the light of day.
Things will never be the same, because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
Even getting a Superman cameo to hype their supposed rivalry.
We should talk.
But for me, ultimately, he did not do Black Adam much justice. It's universally recognized by fans that Pierce Brosnan playing Dr. Fate was the highlight of the movie. It really doesn't help that The Rock pretty much just plays himself in his movie roles. And he personally feels that Black Adam is Superman's rival when it is canon that he is Shazam's nemesis. There had also been reports that he turned down a Black Adam cameo for Shazam 2 because he only wanted to fight with Superman. I guess it'll be some time before we see The Rock play Black Adam again, as he has announced that the character is not part of James Gunn's new DC universe, but he did give hope that he might return in the future. I would like to see Black Adam again in the future once Gunn has established his DC universe, and hopefully, The Rock won't say no to following the source material and finally face off with Shazam. How do you feel about the changes in the DC franchise? Let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.